What's up, guys? Jake Schultz here. I got my guest, Marquett Davon Burton, a friend of mine. I know you're a big businessman, podcaster. Honestly, I don't know a lot of stuff you did. So why don't you give a quick breakdown to people that don't know?
Short story, I started my career founding tech companies, and so that's pretty much carried me through. And went to University of California, Berkeley, Johns Hopkins, where I took a master's. I'm a distinguished alumnus there, and run a couple different businesses. I have interest in textiles, leather, paper assets, real estate. And now I spend some time podcasting as the saint and the sinner.
Yeah, a lot because you enjoy it. You think the podcast, or some money in it, obviously, but
because I see the world burning down, and I just can't sit down and burn down with it.
Yeah, I agree. Let's get into the world burning down later.
Yeah,
let's start out with
let's
start out with a
part.
controversial one.
Yeah.
Last time at your podcast, someone DM'd me and goes, "I shouldn't associate with you because you're a black nationalist and black supremacist."
No kidding.
It's funny. I was kind of asked the same question on your podcast, but you've always treated me good. I've treated you good.
Now, you know that's hilarious for a couple reasons. It's hilarious because, of course, they told me the same thing. You're a white supremacist. You're a racist. But I've also been called a white supremacist and a racist.
Yeah.
So this, no kidding. Someone really sounds a black nationalist and a black supremacist.
I've never got any anti-white vibes from you. You know, you're
no, that's hilarious.
You should be pro-black because you're black.
Well, they also say I'm anti-black. So let's break it down. Now. Number one, I'm all of us rolled into one. And I take the middle ground and just say what's real. So, for example, I'm America only.
Yes,
I'm not America first. I'm America only. The United States is a country with a unique history, a diverse nation that roots from a particular type of culture which has been highly productive. That is the culture of the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. We've seen the white man fall, and as a result, we see everything going down with him.
Yeah.
The white man has been the patriarch of this society. Has the society had things that are terrible, like the transatlantic enslavement of Africans? Absolutely. Or the genocide that allowed for the creation of the United States? Absolutely. Those are not positive things. But I can still be honest about the fact that those pilgrims, the dudes who look like the guy on the Quaker Oats box who came over and started this country and focused it on being industrious, focused it on capitalism, focused on property rights and freedom and religion, respect for God and morality. Those are core things that have been helpful and has put America on top. I'm still an American citizen, despite having a lot of disagreement with the government. So as long as I'm here, I want America on top. The folks who think that they're Pan-Africanists, I think these people are insane, and most of them have not traveled Africa. Even in sub-Saharan Africa, within a given nation state, the tribes might not get along with each other, but more importantly, they don't identify with each other any more than an Italian would identify with a German, right?
Yeah.
So those who would say that I'm a black supremacist or a black nationalist, that's crazy. I run a movement that's based on values. Do we have the same values? Because race and ethnicity are breaking down. You know,
I agree. That's why I have a few friends that are white nationalists, and I just can't get on board with them because it's like there's so many, a lot of my best friends and people I get along with the best happen to be minorities. People like you, we have such great conversations. Like some of my best friends are Mexicans, like Nate Diaz and Gil Melendez, you know, Muslims. So I just can't get aboard on this white nationalist stuff and the no race mixing. I totally understand the no race mixing for people independent. If that's what they want, I'm 100% okay with that. If you want to only be with a white woman, only be with a black woman, but pushing other people just seems idiotic.
I've tried many times to be racist. No, really, I have. I've made some strong efforts, and the only issue is that it's irrational. It's nonsense. And because I've tried consistently, and especially having filled up 4 passport books and seen all of the varieties of man, I find I'm consistently underwhelmed. You know, you're like, okay, the whites are the superior ones, and you get to Europe, and you're like, nah. Or you look at the data and it says that sub-Saharan Africa is backward, and then you get to Botswana and you're like, whoa, this place is quite impressive. Or you go to East Africa and you're like, whoa, this is highly developed culture here. Or you go to Albania and you're like, these are the most backward white people I've ever seen in life. Or you go to China and you find that China is extraordinary. They have cranes all over the place. They're really building that thing up, but then they also have labor standards that are despicable, no regard for human life, even if those human beings are Chinese. And I say that to say every people have their strong points and their weak points. Do I think that all of the races of man are the same? No, that would be foolish. Just as we have breeds of dogs, they have different nature, different inclination, different talents. I'm not going to speak on inherent IQ, but one thing I will speak on is that we know that the nature of the different races, that there are differences in our nature. But I think what's more interesting is culture and training.
Yeah. No, I agree. There's such interesting topics and things that you're not really supposed to talk about. You know, you get called racist and stuff for it, but it's clearly real. There's clearly difference in races, but there's also clearly culture differences, because you look at black people in different places are not the same. White people, look at Dagestan. These are white people. They are not like me. Do you know any Dagestanis and Chechens? Not to knock them, but they are not. Yeah. They are not like American whites and European whites. They are completely different.
Listen, European whites are not like American whites.
That's why the whole race thing, to me, I just can't get down. Is a tough one. What do you think of current black culture? I figure start this out with the spicy ones.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. You ever have so much to say you have nothing to say?
Yeah, it's one that...
Number one, there's no doubt that the foundational black American, so we're talking about those who are with their recent ancestors were a victim of the Mayafa, which is to say that they were ripped from the western part of Africa, brought here in chains, in some cases on a slave ship named Jesus. They were forced to toil, systematically denied education, and now here we are, right?
Yeah.
Those people. Not talking about immigrants from Kenya or Nigeria or Haiti or wherever they came from. We're talking about the ones that their roots go all the way back to the founding of this country, the truest of Americans, in the sense that their culture was created in America. Created in America. That's really unique.
Yeah, it's American culture.
Nothing before
blacks have
it.
their own American culture, exactly. They're pulled out. Most of them have no idea where they're from in Africa, just completely thrown out, and it's hard to rebuild from that. So there is some real...
And you don't need to. You don't even need to go back to all of that. This itself is a big tribe. And, you know, it's important that you mentioned that. I had an employee in the Midwest in Cincinnati, sweetest young lady, and her grandmother is British, not white, British, right? And many folks in the Midwest, they can say we're German. You know, our family's been here for generations, but they go back to Germany.
Yeah.
So anyways, there's a big difference. Anyways, I say all that to say, one, that's who we're talking about. And the number, because there's a lot of blacks just arriving now, and like people are thinking they're different. A lot of those
ones are actually outperforming white people, the ones that are coming over.
Immigrants in general.
That's true.
The whites have fallen. The whites have fallen.
We're not doing the best.
Oh,
we're not doing the best. It's kind of sad.
And I want to talk about that because there's diversity within the white collective, just as there's diversity within the black collective. And I want to talk about, like, even what the white nationalists or white supremacists are complaining about right now, I think is bizarre, because the most important thing is to clean up your own house. Like you don't even have time to, like, you know, go grab your hood and your crosses and get to burning. No, you have other parties within your own house, because we're all suffering right now is at the hands of the liberal white woman. That is the most evil figure on earth, but to the blacks.
That's the white woman thing is a very interesting one too. You go either way.
Right, to the blacks. Black culture right now is, I'd say, from the 1960s moving forward, so end of 1960s moving forward, we start to see it decline, in part due to government policy, in part families being broken down. And we see that the urban black culture, that of the lumpen class, criminality is, you know, respected and prized. And there's logical reasons for that, and we'll talk about it. But we have our lowest class elements, the poor, the criminal, the immoral, are the ones who define culture, and our culture is largely disseminated through hip-hop culture and music and entertainment. But there's a weird thing that's going on now, in as much as you have institutions like Netflix and, you know, big media that's not run by blacks, right? Like the music industry is not run by blacks.
They're run by almost always the same people.
Precisely.
Do you think these people have any responsibility in intentionally destroying culture?
I think these people believe that they are the superior people of the earth, and they believe that all others are dogs.
They look at the black. They don't really care if they destroy your culture. And people kill each other and have girls twerking. They encourage the worst music, and that's what they push.
And they would destroy all cultures except their own. They think that we should... Right?
I don't think I disagree with you on that.
Yeah, all cultures except their own. So what is happening now, it used to be that inside of the black ghetto, you would have these music forms and language and these trends, and then it would go commercialized with the help of that population you're talking about. They'd make most of the money. Blacks aren't savvy, so they suffer. But now you're having it where these power players in film, music, and politics, banking, they're now defining what culture is, and they're using black puppets. So they're now actually creating the trends themselves. For example, the blacks had the highest levels of religiosity, mostly Southerners, right? We come from the South because we're enslaved there. And we're Southern Baptists, things like this, high levels of religiosity, which mean that we would also have high levels of being against the LGBTQ, as that's an abomination, as is written in the Good Book. Now they have made great efforts to take hip hop music, which is hyper masculine, and they've made it something to where you could accept a gay rapper, which previously was an idea that we could never imagine. So that's clearly our culture is being engineered.
Intentionally being attacked.
Yes. And the blacks' leadership is so bad that, they're largely defenseless. And because they're, as a mass, effeminate, meaning that they're too open, they're accepting, and they're weak, they'll pretty much take anything. They lack identity. They feel inferior. That is a big issue with the blacks. They actually believe themselves to be inferior. And what's worse is many of them are actual white supremacists.
Yeah,
the blacks
they're being brainwashed by a lot of liberals. You hear these liberals saying black people can't get IDs, black people can't. What do I say? Some people said like black people don't know what a computer is, and that's like a liberal person.
I saw that.
What a disgusting racist. My liberal friends tell me this stuff. I'm like, oh, so when you invite your black friends out, do you ask if you have an ID?
Right.
And then they kind of realize how pathetically racist they are. It's wild.
And see, you have the right and the left, and the blacks, they're certain that the right is racist. Yeah. And there are people who are racist on the right.
But they're more openly racist, the ones that are.
And I appreciate that. It's honest. Right? It's honest. On the left, they're so deceitful and extraordinarily racist. And they're racist in ways that are the most hurtful and the most controlling. The right, they'll let you be black and maintain your culture. They're just saying, hey, get away from me, which is fine. Yeah. Which is fine. Because here's the thing. I don't want poor people living around me. I don't want dangerous people living around me. I don't want dishonest people living around me in whatever color they may come.
Yeah, I grew up in a bad white neighborhood, but trailers and stuff. I got the hell out of there. It's like it's what you do.
Right.
Almost every black person, as soon as they get money, they leave the area and move around to wider areas, or money at least. It's more money than race.
Yeah, and we remember that blacks are a minority, and for reasons of primitive accumulation, they have less capital. And so, of course, generally when you advance in income level, you're going to advance out of black neighborhoods unless you're in Silver Spring, Maryland, where there's significant black money, or you're in Atlanta where there's significant black money. I don't like to spend time there because there's a lot of Skittle guzzlers there, and I think that this is an abomination that is coming after our children.
Yeah. Do you get offended when they say black culture and they refer to like hip hop and girls twerking? You find that offensive or no?
Getting offended is not manly or useful. And so I would rather accept the challenge, which the challenge is, what are you going to do? And the reality is that we actually have to take hold of our own communities. And for all we'll say about the Muslims or the Middle East is they have their women in line. And women are not the leaders, and they need to be subject to male leadership. They need to be subordinated to the family as a unit. And that's something that is going wrong in all of the racial categories, especially in the West. And so we must stop these black women from behaving like harlots. It's disgusting. And I think that extreme, whatever means is necessary, should be utilized.
Yeah, no, the behavior of the women, that's just like, it's bad. But it's partially men's fault for not properly leading.
It's 100% men's fault. And also we have to start calling a spade, which is to say that if you're a single mother, and I don't care what color you are, you're probably promiscuous. You open up your legs too soon. You gain carnal knowledge of the man before gaining knowledge of, is he responsible? Can he provide? Will he be reliable? All these different things. So we really do need to deal with that. And culture is getting watered down so badly here. So, for example, if we go back, say, to the 1950s, which, by the way, before segregation, blacks were better off.
Yeah, I've heard people argue that, and that's just so,
it's not an argument.
That's so crazy to me. I would love to hear a quick
it's not an argument.
Why you think that is. Now, I've heard other people say
the per capita income of black families was higher during segregation for a few obvious reasons. Number one, the black dollar had to stay within the black community. Number two, the communities, the black enclaves were more diverse. Now, if someone like myself is able to buy a multi-million-dollar home, then I will live among mostly whites and Asians. Whereas during segregation, I would live among other blacks. And as would the doctor, the attorney, and the other high-earning persons. So there's diversity instead of monolithic poverty. And when there's not monolithic poverty, the children whose parents might be a janitor or a low-income person, they still have a counterexample of something else you can strive to be. Also, high performers have high standards. So if we live in the same community, I'm going to make sure the streets are clean because I like clean streets. I'll make sure, all of these things are maintained. So that's why the income was higher. Also, for example, it encouraged blacks to go into certain areas of expertise. You had to go to a black dentist. Yeah. That means that there has to be a black dentist.
Black doctors, black stores, not Jewish-owned stores.
Yeah.
Interesting. Last thing before we switch in race, what's your thought of Malcolm X? I'm a big fan of his, even though he's a little racist. I still think he had great. I think he had great messages, pushed great points, and was teaching black people to take care of themselves, their own communities, stay clean.
Yes, Malcolm X was the national spokesman of the Nation of Islam. So his ideas were really from the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And Malcolm X was better at oratory and being persuasive, so he was sent out to do that job. You said he was a little bit racist. He was following the ideology that was taught to him, which I think is what you're referring to. Yeah. But toward the end of his life,
he went away from his racism right before they killed him. He said the white man is his brother, and then he got shot right after that.
Yeah, he said all men are his brothers.
Not just white men. Yeah, right. I misquoted that, but all men's are brothers.
But it's comical because when you look at the Nation of Islam, which in its original ideology, it's actually changed quite a bit. We can talk about that.
Yeah.
But originally, the idea is that the white man is the devil, right? Which is a strong statement.
Yeah.
But if you look at the founders of it, they're all very fair blacks, very fair skin.
Fair skin? Interesting.
Yes. It's curious.
Most of them were like half black?
And one of them, I think his name is Master Farad Muhammad, they call him. He looks like he was actually white.
Like a Sean King type?
Yeah, he looked like he was actually white. But I say that to point out, we often react to our material environment in as much as, when you a little bit black but not white enough to be considered white, then you really have to reaffirm your blackness. You become the pro-black, super black guy.
The most hardcore black guys that almost come across as racist are usually half white or super light skin. I feel like they're trying. A lot of times they also grew up in nice neighborhoods.
Compensate.
So I feel like they're trying to make up for not feeling black enough. It's really, really odd.
Right. And the blacks are a comical group because they have the black Americans have consistently taken inferiority to heart at a level to where, say, the whites they'll have a one-drop rule in the South. You have one drop of black, you black.
Dang.
No matter what you look like. You look like Steph Curry, you look like, who doesn't matter. You're black. Which is to say that the whites respect their blood enough to say that we have a standards for purity on our side. But then the blacks will say, oh, we'll take you. Doesn't matter. You could look like Steph Curry. We'll take you. Now, here's the thing. Is Steph Curry closer to your color or my color?
My color.
By far, right?
Yeah, but everyone calls him black. No one ever says he's white or rarely say he's mixed even.
Now, as long as he's shooting the ball like that, I'll say he's black, right?
You'll take him because he's so good.
Yeah. But the fact of the matter is, if you had respect for your black blood, you'd say, no, he's not one of us. He's a hybrid, but he's not this.
Yeah.
And that's just another example of either the inferiority, the lack of respect for the blood, or allowing others to define what you are. But at the end of the day, it just goes back to weakness.
Yeah. I really appreciate how guys like Andrew Tate, the Hodge twins, they're always very clear. I'm mixed race. They don't say I'm black. They go, I'm black and white.
Listen, Andrew Tate is not black.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Marquette Davon Burton, the Saint in the Center, with no disrespect, with love.
Yeah, I think his dad was black.
He's not black. No, he's not black. And I'll tell you why. If you got to look at an MFer and go through his lineage to figure out if he's black, he's not black. When you look at me, would you ever say, I wonder where this guy...
No, it's obvious you're black.
Black, right? And I never look at you and wonder if you're black.
Yeah, true.
Right? So if you have to explain your blackness, that's a good rule for everyone. This is a new rule. If you have to explain your blackness, as Joe Biden says, you ain't black.
Yeah, a lot of times the guys that bitch the most about racism are the ones you couldn't even tell they're black. That's what I have a hard time with. I'm like, no one knows you're black, and you're bitching about how tough it is being black. It's like, snap out of it. So.
And I'm not going to say that there aren't people who are legitimately racist. There are. 100%. I've encountered them. Racism is a real thing. But I find that the whining in general is not a solution.
No, it makes it worse. And you're a respectable guy. I bet generally when you run into racists, after a while, the majority of the time, they probably end up liking you if you talk to them.
I think if they're real racist, I don't think
I
they play. I think if they're really about
right.
that life. But even now we have the whites crying and whining. It's outrageous. I mean, like we're at a low point. The white women are also single moms. The white guys are complaining that they're victim of racism. Like, good Lord. Not realizing that if you're the power holder in the society, and you still are, whatever you suffer is at the hands of your own people largely. That's why I say you got to get your house in order. It's the white liberal woman that is a poison to the earth right now. Whether you see her and she looks like a white man or she looks like a black woman, that ideology goes back to liberal white women. Start with the suffragettes and the LGBTQ, and it's just grown like a vicious virus.
Yeah, it's like a cancer. It's gotten pretty bad. It's like, and what is the solution to that? I mean, I guess it's the men to... A lot of times, it's usually the single ones that are the most liberal. Usually when they have a husband or they're married or boyfriend, they kind of start voting Republican or more conservative.
Sometimes you got the weak dudes who go feminist to get the woman. They play the weak, like they try to relate to the woman at such a level. Like, women say silly things when they don't have a proper father. They say things like, oh, guys don't know how to listen, or which, all these things that are basically saying you're not like me, a woman, right?
Yeah.
We speak less than women, factually.
I think like about half, right?
Exactly.
Half the words, like that much less. That's a lot less.
And that means we also don't want to hear what you have to say. We don't have much to say, and we don't want to hear what you have to say half the time.
We're straight to the point.
Exactly. And they want us to be like them. So what do the weak guys do? Oh, yeah, what'd you say? Oh, how was your... And they're great listeners. They're sensitive. They're emotionally available, which is to say they're females with male genitalia.
Yeah, those guys disgust me. The simps, the guys that say whatever they want. And I know you teach dating on your channel, right?
Yeah.
I would imagine that's probably one of the first things you tell guys not to do is not agree with everything a girl says. Because I don't know. I know for me, I just laugh at those girls and they usually end up liking me. These feminists, it's like they know they're ridiculous. They need a man tell them like you're ridiculous.
And they're gonna like a guy like you. Even against their will, they're gonna like you.
Yeah, they can't help it. That's the thing. Like they want to like these. Yeah, they want to like these feminists, but they can't.
Exactly.
Remember back when I'm not in that world anymore. But I was. These girls were like, oh, I don't want to like you, but I just can't help it. And like, 'cause look at all these weak guys that are around you.
It's like a primitive drive. It's a primitive drive.
Yeah, I remember reading an article. It was like some anti-Trump girl talking about how I like this Trump guy and I hate it so much. It was a funny article about sleeping with like Trump guys because she can't stand the liberal guys.
Trump is one of the last white men left.
That just says what he wants.
Well, he is a representation of what America used to be, what made people admire and respect America. I remember I was talking to Mitt Romney one-on-one in D.C., and this when Mitt had ran for office. And I remember I told him this, and I hope it impacted him. I said, why are you scared to be a rich white man?
I'm certainly not. Why was he scared to be a rich white man?
Yeah, see, he was running, and it came out that he had made a bet with someone.
Too rich or something, huh?
Yeah, they're like, oh, he's rich, and he's privileged, and he's a white man, white male privilege, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that's what this place is about.
Yeah, getting
we
rich.
all want to be rich, the rich white man. That's what we all want to be. Our version, right? America's about getting rich. If you want to be equal, go to Europe. They're socialists. They live in filth. They live like animals, small houses, small cars, recycling everything. They live like animals. Go over there. This is where you get rich. And if you're scared to be a rich white man in America, a place that was created by white men who wanted to be rich white men, who could own their property without the government bothering them, who could practice their religion without being, this is that place, and you're telling me you're a religious rich white man and you're acting ashamed of that? Like, you're weak.
Yeah, it's ridiculous because I grew up in poverty and I probably have at least a dozen friends, fighting other aspects that grew up in poverty and now, millionaires, some multimillionaires. Yeah. I obviously want to make more money still, but it's pretty easy to become a millionaire, at least especially lower. Nowadays, millionaires not that much money. To become a millionaire is pretty easy in the U.S.
And that's a problem.
Yeah, but it's pretty easy. I mean, $1 million is not as much anymore, but becoming a millionaire is pretty easy right now. It gets a little harder, you get the 100 million. I'm not gonna say that's easy. That's hard. But like, again, I know a couple people that have made that didn't grow up rich too. So it just shows you can make it. Everyone says you can't make it here, and if you work hard, you can. It's not always easy.
If you can't make it here, you can't make it anywhere.
Yeah, if you can't make $100,000 here, it's just got to be laziness or really low IQ. It's
a mix of both sometimes. Mix of both sometimes.
If I was being lazy making $100K, then I'm like, okay, I got to start working hard again.
Yeah. And that's the problem in the culture right now, which is that we got all these handouts. And even Elon Musk, I take issue with. I'm increasingly disgusted with him. And also, he's a South African. Like, let's throw that out there. Like, he's not an American. So we want to talk about all these immigrants. He's also one of them. Like, let's not forget that part.
It's true.
You know, like, he's not one of us at that level. But guys who mention universal basic income, like, people are already extraordinarily lazy.
They'll just sit around and do nothing. People don't understand that.
Yeah, it's a
people
problem.
Think it's crazy, but like I said, I grew up around some of these welfare people. They don't want to work. It's sad. They're literally taking their food stamps and trading them at half price for drugs. It's
That's
not
right.
like they're not down on their luck.
Yeah.
There are some that are down on their luck. I think we should do welfare for maybe a year or something. But these people, they're not out trying to better themselves. They're not taking care of their children.
I grew up on welfare and food stamps.
Yeah.
And I know that human beings will make rational decisions when put in an environment that has scarcity. And I think that if you smoke cigarettes, one, you're a fool.
Yeah.
But two, boy, you got to be wealthy to have the money to smoke something that hurts you and will cause you to have medical issues that you're going to have to pay for. Whereas in Europe, everyone smokes and they have free healthcare. Like, I don't want to pay for this guy's bad decisions.
Yeah, if someone's 100 pounds overweight, they smoke, do drugs, why should I pay for him?
Absolutely not.
But
And I wouldn't even care if it was my own flesh and blood brother. I'm not paying. So I damn sure I'm not going to pay for some strangers, especially if they showed up yesterday. Showed up to my country yesterday, haven't paid any taxes. And that's how you know the government is rotten. And that's why when I say America first, I'm talking about the American people, not the American government. I despise the American government. And now I think a lot of whites are confused, especially the conservative ones, because they think that America is the government, not realizing that our founders and framers, they believed in small government, not this enormous thing we have now. And even the policing situation, I think, is really hard to understand because our government's wildly corrupt. So, of course, the police are an arm of a corrupt, overly bloated government. So there's a lot to unpack. We really need someone now that's smart enough to create ideology that applies to this day.
yeah, it needs to be redone. You look at the Constitution, these guys were a bunch of geniuses for the time that wrote it. You look at the guys now, they can't get anything done. It's just like pathetic. And they don't listen to us either. We have open borders. No one wants open borders, but they're just flowing through.
That's crazy.
What does that add? Can you think anything positive that adds to our country? Not much.
I think Elon Musk types, they think that constant population
Cheap
growth
labor
is
and growth.
important. Yeah.
The big businesses want cheap labor.
Yeah. So I think those Elon Musk types are very dangerous. The Bill Gates types are very dangerous. And we think that they're like conservative heroes when really they're not. And in the case of Elon, he's not even an American. And I will keep repeating that until we acknowledge it.
It's a good point because I never really think about that he's not an American.
He's not
one of the most
one of
powerful
us.
people in our country.
Exactly.
And, you know, I have mixed feelings with him. I think I think it's great what he's done with Twitter if he keeps it free speech.
Yeah.
It's not fully free speech, but I was getting completely deboosted and suspended all the time before he took over. After that, my count's like tripled because it was my count had just stopped growing. I was put like on a blacklist where I couldn't grow, and he's allowed me to have freedom to tweet what I want. I've been suspended a couple times because I like to push the boundaries.
Yeah.
Twitter's kind of one of those places where I like to over push, maybe a little exaggeration. It's just more fun on there, you know. In person, I say my exact real thoughts. Twitter, I mostly do. I'll just exaggerate them sometimes for fun. I get bored. I'm like, oh, let's push some boundaries.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
What last thing on immigration? Like, what do you make of all that?
We need to take the cream of the crop. We close those borders. We put our military on those borders. We shoot on sight to kill.
Give warning. We're going to do that, and then
I'll make the warning. If you come to our country and you try to sneak in, we will kill you. And if your country has an issue with it, we're going to go kill a bunch of people in your country just to let you guys know we're serious. America's back. We're not playing. It's not a game. If we let you in this country, it will be legally and it will only be the cream of the crop. We only have room for your engineers, your doctors, your scientists, those who will contribute at a high level, and the beautiful women.
Yeah, we bring like beautiful women, like 18 to like 23 from all around the world.
Yeah, I'll even allow 24. I'm more lenient.
Yeah.
I'll allow 24.
From like
But
Ukraine,
that's it.
Asia, Mexico, Colombia. I'm down for that. All of a sudden there'd be borders at the women would be at the border like saying, build the wall, build the wall. It would switch real quick.
So yeah, we're getting destroyed right now. And the thing that really gets me mad again on this corrupt government, I travel around the world. I can get through South Korea in 6 minutes. Get off the plane, get through there. 6 minutes as a foreigner.
Wow.
I get to my own country and I spend 2 hours in Miami, or I spend 2 hours in JFK, treat like an animal.
JFK when I was living in New York. It took so long. They were rude, dirty, filthy.
Yeah.
It's like, how is this supposed to be the greatest country in the world? In New York, it's supposed to be one of the greatest cities in the world. You see that, and it's like, this is embarrassing.
And it's not America. New York and Miami are not America.
No, you got to speak Spanish in Miami now.
It's not America. And that's a problem.
Yeah. Let's switch it up. Let's talk about. I know you teach girls. I'm just or getting girls. What's some of the most important advice you'd give men?
In terms of getting women?
Yeah, because I know you know a lot about female psychology.
Yes, the most important thing with getting women is, number one, treating it like business, which is to say it's often a volume game. It's sales.
Yeah.
But understand the difference between being a good product and then being too focused on marketing. You don't need to market and sell yourself a lot if you're a good product. When the iPhone comes out, people line up. So self-development is critically important. And I have a 3-sentence Bible. Number 1, be yourself. Number 2, be good to yourself. Number 3, be good to good people. So number 1, be yourself. A lot of guys, they get around a chick and now they want to behave like the girl. I think the PUA guys call it losing frame, or they want to lose who they are. Like, for example, I don't drink alcohol. I'll take a chick to the club if she wants to go. I prefer not to go, but I'll take her to the club. She wants to get slizzard? Fantastic. Oh, hey, take a shot with me. No. No, we're
Girls
not
like
taking
it when
shots.
a man holds his line and what he says. They respect that.
Exactly.
They don't like a man they can't respect and push all over. And I would add, never allow disrespect, especially in the beginning. If girls do anything disrespect, you got to call them out on it. Even if girls like showing up late a couple times, I'm like, dude, no, you respect my time. I don't deal with late people. I know you don't either. It's like you have to let them know they can't walk over you and disrespect you.
That's right. That's right. I agree.
But I think you got a couple more points on the dating, or is that because so far I completely agree with what you're saying. I think those are some of the best points. I think guys try to copy other people instead of being genuine and make yourself a great product. You got to make yourself a good man. You can have good sales. I agree. You got to have sales too. If you got to put yourself out there, you got to go talk to girls, but you got to make yourself a good product. You got girls, they got to want to stay with you, want to be around with you. Girls like men that other men respect too. A lot of guys don't realize that.
Absolutely.
If you're just talking to girls and no men respect you, the girls are going to notice that. Like in fighting, no girls know who I am, but they see other men treat me different, and they notice like something's different, you know?
Yeah. 2 things. Number 1, don't be a gentleman. And number 2, mate selection is the most important thing. So often guys have been taught, programmed, educated, and entertained into thinking that there's certain things we have to do. You know, we have to open the door. We have to buy flowers. We have to fill in the blank with something nonsensical. So that's number 1. Don't be a gentleman. If I ever get a woman something, I'm just returning value back to her that she gave to me. I got a woman in my life. She's made me millions of dollars, worked for me for free for years, never asked for anything. So if I were to like give her a gift, however expensive it could possibly be, it's still a small fraction of what she's made me. That's number 1. I don't ever give something for nothing. Treat it like business. That's number 1. Then number 2, mate selection. A lot of guys are like, oh, you got to train the girl, or you got to teach her. No, she's an adult when you met her, hopefully.
Yeah.
And because she's an adult, she's largely fully formed. What you're really searching for is, what woman had a father that's like me?
Yeah.
And let me just take what he's built and enjoy and appreciate it. So the best gift I might give might be for Father's Day, because you gave me a great woman that came to me fully assembled. What you can never do is get a slore and try to turn her into a housewife. She's always going to revert to her basic programming.
Yeah, you can't fix certain women.
At all.
There's ones that are almost there. I think the ones that are pretty good, they need a little guidance and they need a man to follow. So
all of them need guidance.
Yeah. So exactly. Even the good ones, they need guidance. They need to be checked a little bit.
That's right.
Most girls want a man to follow, but you have to be a man worth following. All these guys are like, submit to me. But are you a man worth submitting? That's what people really need to ask.
That's right. And as I said, we're in this complaint era. We're all complaining. And again, like the thing that I find the most funny thing on earth is like whites complaining about racism. I'm like, we're still in a country that's 60% white. Like, you got to knock it off. Like, you got to knock it off. The blacks complaining about racism is annoying too, but they could at least work out some kind of logic. Like, you're 12% of the population, 50% of the prison population. Okay, I get it. You got a rough history here. I get it. Still, shut up. But I get it. Whites is like, oh man, we're down bad. Complaining in general is horrible, especially when you're supposed to be in the strong position. That's when it's the worst. If you're the man, you don't get to complain. I tell guys, hold it in. I don't get to have emotions. Correct.
Yeah. Would you ever cry in front of a girl?
I wouldn't even cry in front of myself.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've seen an argument. I think I've seen a tweet about never cry in front of a girl, and I had so much backlash from that. And these people are completely girls saying, "Oh yeah, it's okay, it's okay." It's like, no, you should never cry in front of your girl. There could maybe be an exception if your parent died real quick, but these guys, they'll say that, and then like not anymore, but back when I was my crazy time, girls, you find out they have a boyfriend. Why'd you cheat? My boyfriend cried in front of me. These girls, they get like turned off by this stuff, or why you cheat? My boyfriend's too nice. He does whatever I tell him, and that's what these guys. They don't understand. They can't be this pushover, soft. You can't always show your emotion to girls. It's your job to hold the relationship together. You have to be strong. You have to be the leader. She has to never see weakness in you. And these guys showing emotion to girls, it's going to turn them off.
That's right. And one thing that you know from experience is that you don't get to be confident for no reason. There's a different confidence that fighters have that comes from kicking ass. When you open up a couple cans of whoop ass.
It's a real confidence. Yeah.
There's a level of confidence, right? When you're in peak physical condition, there's a level of confidence. And here's the thing about being a fighter versus non-fighter. And you're the fighter, right? You've already done it. Like when you're walking through this world, if someone bumps into you, you can already think that I know what the next 5 steps are. I already know what I can get done because I've done it. I've practiced it every week. I already know how this is going to go. But you, buddy, the other guy, you don't have the foggiest idea. You're just looking at me. You just, just random white guy. That's what you think. You'll find out the hard way.
People don't realize the difference is just so insane. It would be like, obviously you get stabbed or jumped. Right. It'd be like going on and being like, oh, I'm gonna play Kobe Bryant. I'm gonna stand a chance. It's like, no, you're completely idiotic. You're just gonna get smoked
quick and painful.
Unless someone stabs you or maybe you get jumped. So I still have to be careful with street fights. But guys, the guy might be a lot bigger. It just doesn't matter if he's not trained. If a guy is trained and a lot bigger, yes, then it matters. But an untrained guy, and the guys are just completely clueless about this.
And that's why I tell guys, because a lot of times they're trying to fake it till they make it, or they're trying to get it. There's one previous famous dude. He was an image consultant. Like, why are we concerned with the image? We need to be concerned with the substance. And one of the things I appreciate about your discipline is that you don't get that ear for fun. Like you can't fake that. Like I see the ear. I know that you have been in that ring enough to earn that. And so that's you don't need a black belt. You don't need a brown belt.
Yeah.
I know you've been in there enough.
You can see I fought.
Exactly. And so like we're so concerned with staging videos and faking stuff and like all of this nonsense, and we forget about the real. And one thing about the real is that it's going to work everywhere on earth. Anywhere you go on earth, people respect realness. And you had mentioned races. You're like, Marquette, they might like you after time. Well, they might not like me, but they'll damn sure respect me.
They can respect you. Yeah,
they're
better be respected than
Absolutely.
Like, people are going to respect me. I'm not going to be disrespected, because we're not going to handle disrespect. And
that's right.
Yeah, no, I think you said I actually think some of the best. I hear cheesy dating advice sometimes from these dating coaches, and I think you're like spot on with like make yourself a better person. And it's not just money. Money is a factor. Like how big a factor do you think money is in dating? I personally think it gets overrated. I think girls like guys with money, but I think it's just one of the things, one of the many things in a package.
That's right. It's one of the things in the package, but the most important thing in the package is what I like to call ism, which is to say the man's knowledge and his savvy and his ability to operate and to influence the mind of that woman. That's more important than your body, than your physique, than your good looks, than your money. What you have in here and your ability to use it and express it out of the mouth, that's the most important thing by far. I say that I grew up around some super players. I've seen guys slay, there's even one Forensic Files episode I watched that was hilarious. A white physician went to Philippines, brought a chick out of Philippines. She had 5 kids with him and ends up screwing the pool boy, Latino guy. And you might be like, yo, he took you out of the third world. And not only did you go from the third world to the first world, but you went to the best of the first world. Huge palatial accommodations. You had kids with him. And you screw the pool boy?
Right.
Right. They're dirtbags, and many of them are. But you have to be sharp enough as a man to be able to see that mate selection, number one. And then number two, you have to realize that you have to continue finessing and, using ism and game to influence that woman and keep her in her place. Same thing in business. If you want to be at the top, if you want to be Apple, you got to keep making sure that your competitors don't rise up. Elon's trying to come out with a phone, right?
Yes,
Apple should be paying attention.
Exactly.
Right? So you got to not only do what you're doing, you got to manage others, and your woman is someone to be managed.
Yeah, you have to keep manage her, keep getting better. You can't get lazy when you're with her. You have to it's always evolving. So, I don't have any more questions on the women, but no, overall I agree with almost everything you say. Yeah. So it's like I said, money is a factor, but I've known so many rich guys with no game and poor guys with tons of girls. I think the worst dating advice I see is that sometimes I see some of these new money/girl coaches. They're saying get $1 million before you start hitting on girls. That is the worst possible advice you could get. You're going to get taken for an advantage as soon as you start talking to girls.
Correct. And also you don't know if you'll ever even become a millionaire or how long it'll take. And one thing I can tell you is that there's a number of women, they didn't make me successful, but they damn sure did accelerate it. And if I didn't have them in play giving me free labor, things would have went a lot more slowly. Even women have great executive functioning skills. They're highly organized, detail-oriented. They're great assets to us. Women are the assistants of men. So to fail to utilize that natural resource, you'd be a fool and possibly a homosexual as well.
Yeah, no, I was told you're red pill. I don't know the exact definition of that, but to me, it seems like you're much more with my line of thinking of, I'm not anti-women. I think women are amazing. They add to us. I've had good experiences. They'll be loyal. They'll help you. But you also have to be a good man and lead them. If you're like a weak man and you're bitching about women, maybe you should look within and realize maybe you're the problem.
That's right. And even a good woman, if she senses, I don't want to get biblical, but let's just say that even a good woman has to be managed and tended to. And if she perceives any of that weakness you spoke of, there'll be something in her nature that's going to exploit that. But our world exploits weakness. Very, very few times is there someone that's just truly magnanimous and they want everything to be right. No, the strong dominate. The intelligent dominate the unintelligent, right? That's the reality of our world. So there's no way you're going to be with a woman and have a good experience unless you are consciously aware that between you two, someone will dominate, and it better be you. And here's the thing. She's not going to be mad at that. They want to be dominated.
No, girls, 95% of girls want the man dominating them. Absolutely. But you have to be a man worth the respecting and following. That's the problem. Some of these guys, she doesn't obey me. It's like, be the man worth the bang. And there are some girls, though, that are just trash. So you also have to learn good character judgment. So there are girls that aren't going to follow. They're going to cheat on you even if you're good. So you have to pay attention to make sure you're not dating one of these hoes.
That's
and you can't find out by asking them how many men they sleep with. They're going to lie to you. You have to
guarantee.
You have to just pay attention. That's a hard thing to teach.
And it comes with experience. And it also comes with your elders. That's one of the things breaking down is family. There are things that your father can teach you, your uncle can teach you, your grandfather, or the fathers, uncles, and grandfathers of those in your community. And that's something that we're missing. Like me, the difference between what I might talk versus these pickup artists, first off, they were losers in high school. Yeah. I was the top of the food chain my whole life. Like, that's my true life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how my whole experience. I was never anywhere other than the top.
Yes, women have always treated you good then. So
Every time.
So you don't have this bitterness towards women and all these red pill guys have.
Yeah. But they get this stuff from the book. They're like, I read Neil Strauss's Game Bible. I'm like, why would you do that?
It might get you laid one time, but it ain't going to keep a girl around by some. And even that stuff is like cheesy, these lines. Yeah. There's a few guys I've seen that can pull up lines, but they're like funny and they're naturally charismatic anyways. So they can pick up girls without like pickup lines. A regular guy and pickup lines is just not a good idea. But I'll say it's better than not talking to him at all. So maybe that's why it works a little bit.
I tell my guys, do a 3 a day. You got to do a 3 a day. I need you talking to 3 chicks a day.
Yep.
Just like if you worked for me in sales, depending on what the nature of the sales are, it's a volume game. You're going to close a certain percentage. And here's the funny part. You guys want to focus, these PUAs want to focus on pickup lines. It doesn't even matter what you say half the time. It matters how you say or if you say. If you say, did you actually say something or did you keep your mouth shut and remain scared? So did you say something? Cool, that's the start. And the second thing is, how did you say it? Did you say it in the spirit of confidence and lightness and fun and humor? That's a factor. But as I was saying, like these Neil Strauss type characters, and they're nerds. And like when you want to learn something that's about human interaction from a book, no, that's not right. Like, can I learn how to fight MMA from a book?
No.
Right, I got to get on the mat,
spend
right?
a lot of time on the mat.
I got to
get on the mat. It ain't going to be quick. You might strike out a lot. These guys might come in, get shot down over and over. You just have to stick with it.
And that's why I tell guys, like, I learned game from real masters in the game, like real players and actual pimps. Not like using the term pimp colloquially, but actual pimps. Like my
actual
uncle
pimps.
is a real actual pimp. So I learned it from people who have it in their blood, and that's why I can flow it out. And so when you get it, you want to go get it from the source. Get that authentic stuff. Like, don't eat Mexican food in China. That's what these guys are doing.
God,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you see a guy who's picked up a couple girls with cheesy lines. Like, find the guys that, always have girls around them that do it with ease without thinking.
And mine are obedient too. You know, like mine are obedient at a high level. Like I like mine like Charles Manson had his. you know?
That guy was a pimp. That's actually brings me, people always bitch about height. I think he was like 5'4", homeless, had no job. And he had a dozen girls literally willing to kill him for him. So if you can't get a couple girls, it's like, come on. Charles Manson could have 20 that would kill for him. Like literally. Yeah. They'd go out and kill people for him. That guy had some game.
That's
not saying he's a good person, but he had some game. So yeah, let's switch it up. Someone said you had a beef with Adam 22. Let's hear. Is that true? Or
you know what? honestly, he's not qualified to beef with me.
He's such a clown.
Yeah, he's not qualified. But simply put, I was invited to No Jumper. I went out to No Jumper, gave an interview, and then he DMs me on Instagram. Hey, that was a phenomenal interview. You got to come back and we got to do it again. Okay, cool. Then a week after that, there's a sodomite that goes on his show who he's friends with. And him and the sodomite, the sodomite brings up me because I'm completely against these people who are children groomers. Completely against them. I don't compromise. So the sodomite brings me up because he despises me, and him and Adam starts like trying to like, you know, verbally bash me. I was like, oh, that's strange because you just were DMing me saying that I should come back and we should do another interview. So I messaged Adam because I'm the kind of guy that I'm a serious man, and I encourage guys to be serious men. I'm a serious man. And for most people, I've done things that they'd be scared to do in real life. So I'm not an internet guy. If there's a real issue, I'll message you. I'll get you on the telephone.
One-to-one, that's how it should be.
And I'm very polite. I was raised to be very polite. I was also raised that if it has to go left, make it go all the way. Have no fear. Don't ever hesitate. And I'm really like that. So I reached out to him and I said, hey, and by the way, I'm from LA.
Yeah.
I said, hey, buddy, I was in your studio. Like, you didn't address any of this. Why didn't you address that when I was there? And, you know, by the way, and he has like a bunch of gang members around him and what have you. I said, hey, by the way, F you and F all of them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like
not scared of those clowns.
Yeah. So I said, hey, you got an issue? No response. Now, mind you, we had been DMing back and forth.
And he just froze up when you called him out.
So then after that, I go to whatever podcast, and the guy there, snaky character, he set it up.
He brought you guys both on without telling you?
Didn't tell either of us. Well, I don't know if he told Adam. He may have told Adam. I don't know if he told Adam, but he didn't tell me.
He seems like a snake. He invited me on a few times, but his team seems too snaky. I'm like, something about him, his vibe kind of read off to me.
Very dishonest individual. So I pull up in an Uber. I get out of the car. I immediately see Adam. I'm dressed like I'm always dressed, which is usually in a suit. And I see Adam and 3 other white guys. So Adam's a couple inches taller than me. I walk straight up to him. I say, hey, do you need that fade? Which, that's in the African-American dialect, that means, do you want to get your ass kicked right now? Like, would you like to, like, we can fight right now. So I walk up straight to him, look him dead in his eyes. He's with 3 other dudes that are all big. All of them are bigger than me. He's bigger than me, and the 3 guys he's with are bigger than me. I walk straight up to him. I say, do you need that fade? Oh, no, it's just content. Are you sure?
It's content.
I said, are you sure? He said, no, it's just content. Then at that point, in which you basically say, I'm scared, or I don't want an issue, or I never wanted an issue, we're done. Like, I'm not going to bully anyone, and I'm not going to create a problem where there need not be a problem. Okay, great. Let's get on to the business affairs. Then during the show, I embarrass him, and he gets mad, and he's like, oh, I want to slap that milk dud. What? Why? We were outside, and you could have.
You're about to fight him.
We could have got that in, buddy. So you're lying and you're dishonest, but that's the era that we're in, this internet age. We have a lot of immorality, and I think that it's important that we start slapping people's helmets off. We got to bring that back.
I agree. I've slapped a few people, probably not the best idea, but I've gotten a few altercations, so got arrested not too long ago, so need to be a little carefuler. You got guys running their mouth, you know, it's like, especially only when it's pro fighters, but pro fighters think they could run my mouth. I was like, oh, I'm going to beat your ass. It's just like, I don't do that. I also can't stand guys that act nice to your face, and then we're not around talk shit. That's just, if someone's on here and starts talking shit about you, I'm going to defend you, you know? I'm like, no, you're not going to talk shit about my friend. I'm just like not okay with that.
Right. And also there are things that I don't know about. Like, so for example, the first time I had you on, people were like, oh, Jake Shields is a racist. I can't believe you talked to him. Like, don't you?
It's the same thing for me. It's so ridiculous.
Don't you see his Twitter? And I was like, honestly, I don't see his Twitter. I honestly don't. But more importantly, I talked to him in person in real life. Like, I'm not going to check his Twitter because I'm not like a fan.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm not a fan. So no, I've literally not seen it. But if I did, then that'll be something I would discuss with him. Because I can talk to him in real life.
Call, you could call me. Yeah. Like, if you have an issue with your friend, call them. Don't tweet it out. Like, if you just want to I would call you and be like, hey, why did you say this? You know?
If it even matters.
If it matters. Like, when someone says you're a black nationalist, I didn't really care. You treat me good. If you aren't, it's not an issue. Like I said, I'm not a white nationalist. I don't think I'm racist. Some people will say I am because I'm a race realist.
Sure.
But, like, you know, I'll admit that maybe there's higher crimes in some, there's reasons for it. I'm not saying like, oh, black people are bad, but to act like it's racist to say they have higher crime, to me, that's, I don't think it's racist.
And there's some things that don't factor into a relationship. So like, say you were a legit, like real quality racist, and in all of our interactions, it never comes into play. I'm not going to bring it into play.
Yeah, I
and
agree.
as much as if you're a legitimate racist, how arrogant would I have to be to think that I'm about to take that out of you? Right? That's just stupid.
Yeah, I think I could be friends with a legitimate black racist person. I haven't been, but I think I could be if he treated me really good and with respect. And it's like, and if he starts bashing people around me, I'm going to obviously talk shit to him. But like, for
Are
the
you
most
going to
part,
defend the whites?
I'll defend the whites.
You gonna defend the
I'll
whites?
talk a little bit shit. Yeah, we do some terrible shit too. That's the thing though. I'm critical of my own people too. We
for
do some
sure.
embarrassing shit. And
Yeah.
like, we have the scummy white trash. We have, you know what was embarrassing? The BLM protests. There was white people washing black people's feet. Those people disgusted me.
That's crazy.
And they're on their hands, knees,
is
just like
so
begging. I'm
weird.
like, man, you people are pathetic. You think these black people are going to respect you? Would you respect a guy washing your feet?
A male? I wouldn't let a male
female,
wash my
of course.
feet.
Yeah, let her wash her feet.
Yeah,
But
if it was a white girl, if it was a white woman, I would let her wash my feet for sure.
Yeah, for white woman,
absolutely.
I would let her.
Matter of fact, any woman.
They're welcome to wash your feet of all races.
Yes, absolutely.
But there was white men washing feet.
That's the Skittle guzzlers. Like that's a Skittle guzzler. There's no heterosexual man that's gonna wash anybody's feet for any reason. No. I don't care what you did or your ancestors did. That's ridiculous. But that's mental illness, and mental illness is running rampant. And the problem is that we're allowing the mentally ill to grow in such numbers that becomes normal. It's the new normal, and that's crazy.
Yeah, mental illness seems everywhere with the trans, the gay, like you said earlier. This is the gay and trans. It's a mental illness, and I'm not going to pretend like it's normal. I'm not going to hate gay people, you know, or trans. The trans people kind of freak me out. I'm not going to lie. They kind of freak me out.
Yeah, it's spooky.
A lot of the gay people I actually have sympathy for because at least half of them are molested, if not more.
Right, exactly.
No one
but they don't want to
wants to talk
admit
about
it.
this.
They don't want to admit that. Yeah, that's a fact.
Yeah, and I think there's a guy that advocates, you know, I think he's been molested, wanted to come on and talk to me. I might have to bring him on because he has all the stats on the gay community, the molestations, the rapes.
That's
so
real.
I actually feel bad for a lot of these people. They were, you know, they were
Victim.
raped, but but a lot of them also go on to rape. So to act like this is normal, and it's sodomy. Sodomy is not normal. You can't reproduce that way. We're acting like sodomites is normal now, and like not even normal should be celebrated. We're having gay parades celebrating it. It's insane to me.
But one of the things, and that's where I draw the line, people are probably like, Marquette, you can be friends with a racist? Well, I don't know that I have any friends that are A, racist, or B, any more racist than I am. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, so I don't know that that's the case. But with regards to the sodomites, I'm like, that's where I draw the line.
Yeah, right.
It's too much. It's just too much. It's filthy. It's too much. Because I can try to make a logic for racism. Like the sodomy is just like, bro, that's filthy. But what we have to stop doing are people like you and I. We're in an age where this place is burning down so rapidly. We're not in a time of compromise. We're not in a time where you can say America first, and then Israel after, and then Ukraine after. No. We're in America only. We're in desperate times. The amount of debt that America has, we cannot pay back.
That's absolutely insane. Most people aren't smart enough to understand this, but $35 trillion with interest. The average taxpayer owes $270,000 each with interest. So the interest alone, I don't know what that is. My math's not that great, but it's like what, $30,000, $40,000 in interest a year. Yeah. So it's almost what the people are making. It's impossible, and it's getting higher. People don't understand this is going to be a problem. They're going to have to start printing more money, hyperinflation, and people are just going on their day like nothing's wrong.
Yeah, and this always leads to war. Because when you figure out that you can't pay the money back, but you still want to maintain hegemony and be in power, there's only one tool you can appeal to: violence, because you don't have the capital.
Which is probably why we're pushing wars in Ukraine and Israel, keeping the war machine going, keeping the economy falsely elevated.
Let's talk about the Weimar Republic, which is what preceded Hitler, and they were deeply in debt. And they're printing all those, I think it was Deutschmarks at the time, or Reichsmarks, I forget. But whatever it was valueless. And that made the way for Hitler.
Yep.
And of course, a new currency and wipe away the previous
didn't
debt.
he like kick out some of the bankers and change it up? And I think he got I don't know the details behind it, but he got the economy booming, which is why he was so popular.
That's why dictators are always popular, because they don't double speak. You don't have to try to guess on if they're going to do what they said they were going to do. The amazing thing, they said Trump was going to lead to World War III. Instead, he led to a strong economy and the highest employment rate for blacks that we've ever seen. We didn't have any of these draconian predictions with Biden, and now the world's about to end. We have poverty, lawlessness, no borders, and we're living in a way where everyone disrespects us. I go around the world. America used to be like, oh, you're American? Like, oh, New York. And, you know, it's an exciting place, land of opportunity. Everyone wants to get here. People want to get here and still disrespect us. It's amazing.
They're still trying to come here, but it's like,
And even the Europeans, they're so cocky and arrogant. I spent a lot of time in Europe. They're so cocky and arrogant, like, oh, I don't want to be anything like you. Oh, do you use Facebook? Yeah, we created that. Oh, that's an iPhone? Oh, yeah, we created that too. Oh, yeah, pretty much everything that you actually like
is American.
We created. You're nothing. We Marshall planned you out of poverty. And really, we should have really left you there and just continue to dominate. That's what I would have done. But here we are.
Yeah, we still have a lot of innovation and a lot of great companies pushing here, but the debt is what scares me. And I think all the foreign wars, all the foreign aid we give, all the reckless spending, the bringing immigrants, it seems like it has to stop or the country's going to collapse. And
that's what happens when you don't have any identity. One of the greatest Americans, Henry Ford, he even put out a pamphlet that I don't want to say the name of. You know, pamphlet.
The international, international Jew.
But he was very much so about Americans, because America is not a race. You go to Germany, there is a German race. You go to Sweden, there's a Swedish race. You go to Ethiopia, there's the Habesha. There are races. And their race goes back in that land. That's not the case in America. None of the whites, their race doesn't go back here. No one else's does, unless you're one of the Native Americans or Aboriginals, and they're small in number because you guys wiped them out.
Yeah.
Damn near.
and the ones that are here are mostly in reservations.
Yeah, exactly.
I grew up in a reservation. That's actually really sad. They're out there. People don't know how bad those communities are because the black communities, they know in the inner cities, they see it, but it's just exactly the same in the Native American. They're on lots of methamphetamines, alcohol. Girls are getting pregnant at like 13. Girls are disappearing. People disappear all the time because they just get buried out in the woods. It's pretty scary out in some of those reservations. But no one really, the movies don't show that. No one talks about it. They show them looking like they're doing all good. And obviously there are some natives doing good, but for the most part, they're struggling as a community.
Even true in Canada, the First Nations people. That's correct. And so Henry Ford said, when you come to this country, you need to learn what it is to be an American because we have a way. And you're going to follow it if you're here. And the Poles who came into his business and whoever else, it was not his. I mean, the man's making cars. He's making automobiles. But he said, you're going to learn our language. You're going to learn our culture, our holidays, and whatever other crap we do, you're going to do it. And that is what we have to bring back. We are not like the Europeans. We're not like the Canadians. We're not like the Mexicans. We're the Americans. We're the top dog. That's when I tell people when I'm in Europe and they get disrespectful, I immediately say, now, I don't defend the whites. I don't defend the blacks, but I always defend the Americans because the country has afforded me a lot of mobility. And I tell them, I say, hey, look, when you want to call another country, you have to dial a country code. What's your country code? They'll say, oh, my country code is 255 or whatever it may be. So do you know what our country code is?
Number 1.
Motherfucker.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt America's number one country. Reason. We've also by far done the best job of integrating. People mix here pretty good for the most part. It's not perfect. There's some problems.
It depends on where you are,
Yeah, and I think the South's a lot worse. And the more you bring people in too large numbers, it causes problems because you have to bring them in slowly to integrate. Like we don't have a major Muslim integration problem here. I think some states actually are starting to, but like the Bay Area and stuff because they've been brought in slow and they've integrated.
Dearborn.
I think those places I haven't been, haven't seen. I think they do. But like the Bay Area, the Muslims mix fine with everyone
Bay Area.
else.
I thought you were saying, okay,
Yeah, no, I'm saying places like that, everyone mixes pretty good for the most part. There's some segregation. There's parts of like Oakland, California that is like pretty much all black still. But overall, we've mixed better than any other country, I think.
I don't even think we need to mix. I think we just need to know what is holding us together. I don't think it's necessary to integrate. I think it's fine if we're separate. Whether it's racially separate, economically separate, I think that's fine. If you choose to live among people who are not like you, that's, do what you do. But at the end of the day, you will not be in this country burning the flag of the people. You will not be in the country cursing it and all the opportunities that it gives you and not knowing how appreciative you should be. Now, there are some realities that we need to know. When Trump says make America great again, you really can only conceive of what that means if you've traveled abroad. I had an office in Pangyo, South Korea. And when I walk into my office, they do a retina scan to open up the office. It's real James Bond stuff over there on a consistent basis. I was doing a deal in China. They toured me through a whole bunch of cities. I've been through like 17 Chinese cities. Their small cities are bigger than our big cities, and their train station looks like a modern airport. It's enormous. And their train is extraordinarily fast. And like even the coach class is not bad, but I wouldn't know from firsthand experience. But the point is, when he says make America great again, you should wonder why when you go to Singapore, their airport looks like a 5-star hotel, and then you go to LaGuardia and it looks like you're in...
Embarrassing, yeah. It's so embarrassing going to like LaGuardia or JFK, like all these airports. Like you said, you go to Singapore, or you go to Middle East, can't think of the name of some of the ones they go through. Like these are beautiful.
Dubai,
Dubai, it's like beautiful. They take pride in it. And it's like the buildings are decaying, the roads are decaying. It's American. It's kind of sad to see.
Well, it's not sad. It's angry. You should be pissing mad because They're stealing from us. If you pay anything in tax and you get triple taxed here, you should be literally pissed off mad because they're stealing from each and every one of us. If you drive over a pothole, you should be pissed off because that dollar went to Ukraine to finance the death of some Slav. You know, if you are in a school that is shitty, and most of our public schools are when you're talking about elementary, middle, and high school, if you're in a public school that doesn't have adequate resources, you should be mad as hell because we've been giving billions to Israel for how long? Right?
About 50, 60 years, I think, billions a year. And sometimes like now we'll give them 100 billion just to like, we fought wars for them, you know, fought Iraq was mostly for Israel. I'm sure you're aware of all this. It's like our greatest ally. What have they offered us?
It's not an ally.
Bombing our ships, stealing our secrets, spying on us. And these guys, they have so much control in our government. We just play along with it.
All of the control. And it's not a friend. How can you have a friend where you only do something for them, but they cannot do anything for you?
I always say loyalty is a two-way street. I am very loyal to my friend. I always go out of my way to do favors for them. But like when they ask for a favor back, I do it. You know, you actually done me a couple of favors already, but I know, you know, anytime you need me, obviously I'm going to be there for it.
Appreciate that, yeah.
Because loyalty is a two-way street.
That's
Someone's always like, take, and then you call them up, hey, could you do this for me? And they're like, yeah, I don't know. You're like, wait, after all I've done for this dude, he's not going to go spend a couple hours to like help me out.
Yeah.
And some people will do that. Sometimes someone will disappoint you. And at that point, you need to realize, just stop doing stuff for that guy. If you've done a lot for someone and they won't do something back for you, that's not your friend.
At all.
At all.
And we get it because we've earned our way up. You know, we've earned our way up. We know the value of relationships, the value of people helping us, and the value of helping other people.
So crucial having a good network. It's just, you know, so many good contacts, you know, for all kinds of ways in life. For example, I have a brand new podcast, but I'm getting great guests because I treat people good. I get like, you know, which hopefully that'll make things grow fast, you know, to get guests that other people can't get because I treat people good. I do people favors. They know like, oh yeah, this is a good guy. You have to have a a good reputation.
Yeah, and the studio is tremendous, by the way. This is awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
so it's,
absolutely.
You helped me start my podcast and stuff, by the way. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Like I said, you've been a great guy. So we'll do a couple more topics and you got to get out here fairly soon, but I think we got about 20 more minutes or so, 15, 20 more minutes. Let's talk about religion for a second. For me, I kind of grew up atheist, and then I kind of, not like hardcore, but
just not believing in something.
Yeah, I read some of the atheist books.
Yeah,
those atheist
books.
Oh,
they have books.
They happen to be written by all the same people. They don't criticize that religion. They criticize Christianity and Islam. I noticed this recently going through it. So I went through a phase like high school, and then I kind of came agnostic. Wow. I remember traveling through Europe, you know, and I went to the spectacular churches, and I went in Turkey, went to the spectacular mosques, and you can like feel these buildings. You've been in these buildings, right? Yeah. They're magic. Like you're like, wow, they built these for God. You walk in, you can feel the presence, and you're like, if there was no God, like why would they build this stuff? Like what's the point if there's no God, you know? So I haven't joined religion yet, but I mean, I start believing in God, and I start. Before I was like dumb and anti-religion, you know, you get these guys, they nitpick all the things religion, but humans need something to believe in. Correct. If you don't believe in religion, you'll go to communism, feminism, all these isms. So I just think, what's your opinion on religion? Are you religious? Do you think it's important to society or?
Yeah, I like to say that I'm all of the religions. I'm all the races, I'm all the religions. And I think that they're generally going in the same correct direction. You did bring up a really good point that I want to highlight. Communism is anti-religious.
Yep, they kill religion.
Yes. And if you actually look at the chief architects of communism, it's leading thinkers. You look at guys like Trotsky, many of them were Jewish intellectuals.
People,
yeah, they're Jewish
Same
intellectuals.
People attacking religion, yeah.
And it's comical in as much as even if you look at Israel and the founders of it, the ones who even thought of the concept of Israel, the ones who are running the government, they're not the religious Jews. Nope. In fact, the religious Jews are actually persecuted in Israel. And when you see protests, meaning protests staged by Jews, or you see persons who don't want to submit to conscription in Israel and go into the army, it's the religious Jews.
I've been seeing those riots.
Yeah.
I think that's a great point. They say the guys that ones that took Israel over in the early 1900s, you know, said God promised them that land, yet they were atheists. And they're of like, you know, these guys are mostly from like Poland and Ukraine. They say that was our land when they're clearly, look at them, they're clearly like
European,
not the complexion of Middle Eastern.
Right.
So it's a strange thing. Atheists saying God promised them that land. And then you have Zionist Christians that have fallen for the BS.
And that's one of the other indicators that the white man has fallen. Because the funny thing is, generally when you look through the history of the Anglo-Saxon white man, they've had pogroms, they've been fairly against those folks. And we see that they've infiltrated so effectively that they've convinced large swaths of the white population, be them evangelicals or otherwise, that your destinies are linked somehow. They say Judeo-Christian values, which is a term that literally doesn't make sense.
No, they're completely opposite values.
Right? That's like being black and white at the same time.
Yeah,
It's
right.
like being pregnant and not pregnant at the same time. You're right, because Christians prize Jesus and Jews.
What do they think, what's happened to him in this book? Are you aware of that? They think he's boiling in human feces in hell.
Exactly.
Judeo-Christian values.
So it's impossible.
And they're allowed to rape just, I don't know if you saw, they were caught raping a bunch of prisoners.
Yep.
And a couple of the guys got arrested because the video leaked out, and they had riots to free the prisoners that were gang men, they were sodomizing male prisoners. And they rioted. The politicians were arguing if they should be able to rape non-Jewish prisoners. It's like, how is this Judeo-Christian values?
How's it even a conversation?
It's just wild. And our media, I don't think any of our media covered it. You only see that stuff on like social media and stuff. But it's real. There's videos of it. It's coming out. You know, it's in foreign press, but our press just buried it.
There's even, I think it's called a mitzvah. And this is where the child is circumcised, and they take the bloody foreskin off, and then the rabbi takes the child's bloody phallus, into his mouth and drinks the blood. You ever heard of this?
Yeah, they literally put the penis in the mouth.
Yes. And the only reason that the secular folks or the Gentiles became aware of this, it happens throughout the United States and, of course, around the world, where you have Jews. The only reason we learned about this is because some of those filthy animals were giving the children STDs. Right, exactly. Isn't that terrible?
Disgusting. It's one of those things. And I understand religious freedom. I think that goes too far.
Right, like that seems like more like the devil than religion.
It seems, a little satanic.
Yeah, exactly.
A little off subject. That reminded me, we were talking about earlier, giving herpes. Remember the monkeypox when that was being pushed?
Oh, yeah, yeah. They didn't want to
But what happened is it was all men.
Exactly.
And listen to this. Some children started getting it around.
Wow.
And that's when they really buried it.
Yep. Yep.
Have you seen all these gay surrogates now? And they hand them this... I never had a strong opinion before. I'm like, oh, whatever, they have a home. But seeing them take this kid, yank it from the mother, the surrogate, and they hand it to these gay men. The baby's freaking out. The guys are holding it like a little pet. It's just absolutely disgusting.
It's vile.
Videos. It's vile.
In fact, it's evil. And that's what has, and I always find it funny. I talk a lot about race, and I think that maybe that's why people might associate racism, because I talk about racism. Yeah. It needs to be talked about. I find it funny that the white males become so weak. It's just hard to imagine that they were ever a master in this land.
Crazy, right?
Like, how do you go from the master in the land
to the weakest, self-hating? It's pathetic. You see these. I saw one. It was one poll where they had people standing, black people and white people, on a line. And they're like, if you're extremely pro black, go to the side. All of them went to every single one of them went to the extremely pro black. For the white people, if you're extremely pro, one side was anti. They all went to the anti. A couple of them stayed on the mid. No one went to the pro white. It's like, how have they brainwashed these people to hate themselves? That's why people say I'm racist maybe, because I think white people should be proud to be white. I think everyone should be proud of their race.
Of what they are.
Exactly.
Be proud of what you are. Yeah. And I think historically, what we've called white supremacists were violent and hateful in nature toward those who are not white. And so because you have these historical practices and organizations where you call them pro-white, but there's something beyond being pro-white, right? Yeah. You can be pro-black without hurting anyone who's not black. You can be pro-white without hurting anyone who's not white. And in fact, I don't think we necessarily need to be pro-black or pro-white. We need to be good people. Yeah. We need to respect ourselves. Yeah. And respect what we are.
I think the reason I started saying I was pro-white is because these people, the anti-white whites, they just absolutely disgust me. So I'm like,
you got to counter
I needed to like push back a little bit. But no, I agree. It's about being good people, because I like a lot of my best friends has happened to not, I get along with whoever I get along with, whether they're white, black. So it's like I definitely don't see myself as racist. I treat everyone as equal. And people will call you racist for that, because I think black people can get IDs.
Right. And I think also there's nothing wrong with, I mean, at some level, I favor being black and you favor being white. Like without thinking, though.
Yeah, it's just,
right. Like without
what we
thinking.
are. We wouldn't like change it because we love who we are.
And I might say something off color to you, like thoughtlessly, just because my reality is as a black man and your reality is not. And so it might be off color, but I wouldn't have even thought twice about if we're out and like you're putting on sunscreen and it smells kind of funny, and I might like bro, I might make a comment. Yeah. Not like trying to degrade you or anything. Yeah, exactly.
But I don't know. I think a lot of times when you're less racist, you actually can joke with your friends and make little jokes without being offended. Like, oh my God, he said that. That was slightly racist. Guys that overthink this are just like pathetic.
And I think the women are the best example of like kind of the differences between the racial categories. And I think if we can be real about things, which is to say, and this is how I look at it objectively. All the races are different in terms of the intellectual faculties. We don't know precisely what the difference is. I have some guesses. In terms of personality, nature, tendency toward anger, aggressiveness, ability to plan long-term, things like this. I have some guesses.
Yes, it's hard to say what's culture versus race, but there's definitely some racial factors.
There's no doubt about it. The data is not clear. We don't have clear data on this yet. And maybe one day we will, maybe we never will, because they'll suppress studies.
Yeah, they don't like stuff like that. They call it racist.
But in terms of physical appearance, if you look at the different racial groups, I say, okay, no one won at everything. If you like, and I like to use women as an example. The black women, they seem to despise their hair. I personally love black women's natural hair, but they despise it. So say the white women win on the hair. The black women win on the skin. I think the black skin is the superior skin by far, not only in appearance, but also in actual protection from the elements. Like you're less likely to die because of the sun's vertical rays. Yeah, exactly. So, okay, the white women got the hair that everyone likes. The black women got the skin and the lips. And like each group has the Asian women have the flat stomachs. Like, you know, each group has something that they're good at or that they're excelling in. The poison comes in when you want to be something that you're not. When you're a white woman and you're tanning, you need to stop that. You're actually literally committing slow suicide. And mostly it doesn't look good. If you're black or if you're a white woman and you're inflating your lips, you look like a fool. A lot of the Eastern European women do that. You look like a fool.
I hate that. Me too. It looks so terrible. You see these girls are young and their faces are all done up. You're like, they were pretty and they look disgusting. There's too much of this in Vegas, in Miami, these places.
You're a black girl. You're wearing the wig. You're wearing the racial feature of another woman. You look like an animal. You're a low person. And so I think that when we can love who we are without hating who anyone else is, we're in a good position. But also when we can acknowledge none of us are perfect. Some have this advantage, others have that advantage, and it's fine.
I think me and you both have advantages. I have advantage of being white, you have advantage of being black. I don't know if one's more than other. There's a slight advantages to each. It's just reality.
Well, I tell you this. I think that, or I know that. So first off, it doesn't matter because we can't change it.
Exactly.
Right? It doesn't matter.
Whoever's disadvantaged to whine about it is the worst thing you could possibly do.
It is what it is, right? One thing I know for sure is in business, if I was a white man versus a black man, I think I'd have a much greater advantage because I'm in business.
Yeah.
And when I travel around and I do international business. It's a huge advantage, especially if we're talking about in the Middle East or in Asia. Huge advantage. Probably in Africa. Pretty much around the world. Around the world. So it's an advantage. There's just no doubt about it. But I don't think that being a black man is such a disadvantage that you can make an excuse of it. Right?
I've noticed, I've traveled a lot, and I've noticed a lot more racism overseas against black people than in America. I've noticed, I've seen some like blatant racism overseas before, and I've seen mild racism here, but never like near as blatant have I overseas. You've traveled a lot. What's your opinions on that?
One, I think a lot of people are lying about racism in general. Whether you're a white racist or where you're talking about on the white side, the black, whatever it is, just the topic of racism, I think a lot of people are lying. One of the things that kills me, it annoys me to no end, you have dumb, inexperienced, unsophisticated, uneducated black folks will be in my comments. They'll say, oh, you're going to go to Belarus. I hear they're so racist out there. I'm like, have you been?
Yeah, right.
No, you have not been. Or, oh, look at this clip in Poland. They're so racist. I'm like, I do a ton of business in Poland. I've been to Poland like more times than I can count. I've never had one problem.
Interesting.
At all, ever.
I would heard Poland's racist too. That's interesting.
Now, I'm not saying it's not.
Yeah, but you've had no problems.
I'm not saying it's not racist.
That means a lot, though, that you've had no problems.
I'm just saying I've been there a ton of times. I've never had a problem. Which is to say it's not racist at a level to where we need to make public announcements. You know what I'm saying? Like, you might meet one guy who's racist or two. You know, they're everywhere in every country. But it's not enough that we need to make a public service announcement and discourage people from going.
Yeah, it's a great point.
Yeah, it's just silly.
Yeah. I would say I agree with what you say with because you're self-employed, but if you work from like Google, being black would be an advantage because you're an intelligent guy. They're trying to put black people up.
I think you have to be a certain kind of black.
Yeah, you probably don't follow orders well. It's not well enough.
So no, I can follow directions really well. I think both of us can. I think any great leader is also a great follower. A great student is a great teacher. But and this is, you'll notice this, if you look at the blacks who excel within corporate structure or within establishment media, Don Lemon types.
Oh God.
Don Lemon, right?
Yeah.
It's like not really a black guy.
Not,
effeminate, probably homosexual, masculine black men were rebuked. I remember when I did Teach for
Interesting.
America. Oh, they despised me.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I think you're probably right. I never thought about that. I know they're always trying to promote black people,
Weak
but you're
ones.
probably not the you're probably not
Terry
the black guy they
Crews.
want.
You know who Terry Crews is?
Yeah.
Big buff looking, masculine looking. But you remember what happened to him? He let the little
What, he didn't let
Jewish
some
guy.
was
little
that a
small
Jewish guy too?
I don't know. Maybe I assume
Probably.
he was an executive in that industry, or a little white guy, Jewish guy. I don't know. But fondled his and did nothing. That is not how black men are.
No, it's like I would smack him.
Any man.
Someone grab my dick. I don't care if he was my producer or paid my money. He's getting
Right?
smacked.
But aren't we supposed to be the hyper masculine, criminal, violent, emotional ones?
Yeah. What do you think of the films putting black guys in dresses? Have you seen that? Some comedian mentioned it, and I noticed it. It was like everywhere.
Yeah, they've been. Yeah, it's.
You think they're trying to feminize the black men now?
I think there's an effort to feminize
All men. I agree, all men, but black men are probably the least feminized, so it seems like an attack on them now.
Absolutely. I mean, the hip hop music is a hyper masculine. It's a martial music. Much of it is about killing.
Yeah.
It's the greatest military music on earth. And they've made a great effort to hijack our culture and put in front like black lesbians at the head of it. Even Black Lives Matter is run by black lesbians.
Yeah. And a lot of times it's the same people, black lesbians or other people of the same people.
Yeah. So it's vile. And I often have to teach us what we are. So I don't, there's a lot of folks who are, like, and all this African, like our ancient ancestor religion. I'm like, look, that failed.
Yeah.
Okay. That failed. We're on to the next thing. We're going to create now.
It's about moving forward, it's not dwelling on the past.
Precisely. And I have to tell the black people who they are because every people, their history matters to them and what you've come from matters. And I am reasonably well versed in, the histories of each of the varieties of man. And they all have quite fascinating and impressive histories. The black man was in the sunlight first. Our history is the most ancient. Which is why it's hardest to recount because the historiography has to be very complex because it's old.
Yeah, we don't know old history that well. We've lost most of it.
It's old. But the black people don't know themselves. I remember I was in South Africa and being a black American, only understanding your history to have started in America, that's pretty pathetic.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. So I'm gonna ask one more question, then I'm gonna ask a couple of audience questions. Sure. I'll end with a couple of those. You follow fighting a little bit, right? There's a really interesting fight this week.
Okay.
It involves Africa, is why it's so good. Israel Adesanya is fighting the Duplessis. How do you say his name? The other white South African. What is his name? It's like so they're having a battle of who the real African is because
That's
Israel
funny.
moved to where did he move to? Not Australia. The land right by there.
New Zealand?
New Zealand.
Oh, did he really?
And he spent most of his life there. The other guy grew up in South Africa. So they're arguing over who's the real African. Will it be the African belt? And I just think it's superly racially charged. I think it's an interesting debate. And I don't know the answer to that. I don't know how real it is.
The fight game is a racial game.
Yeah, I don't know.
Always.
It sells tickets, but it is an interesting debate is who's more African, the guy that grew up, spent his whole life, has generations there, or the guy who left with who's black. And I don't know the answer to that question, but it's very interesting.
Well, there's no such thing as African in as much as, like, see, as Americans, we have states, but they're all a part of the same country. So to be American is a thing, and we have this big landmass. And so we look at Africa in the same way, but those are different countries. So to say that you're African doesn't really mean anything because a Nigerian and an Ethiopian, they look radically different. They have different languages. Everything is different. So there's no real unity there at all.
Yeah.
So there's no such thing. It doesn't really make sense. But with regards to the South African guy, if you're a white in South Africa, you're fairly separated. And there's still significant racism. When I was in Cape Town, I walked into a restaurant that was in operation, and they told me I couldn't eat there.
Wow.
I was actually on YouTube Live while it happened.
Yeah, and I think South Africa is still pretty racist on both ends, though.
And the racism makes sense numerically in a sense of, now, one, the South African whites are very aggressive and for a long time. Their thing, apartheid thing, ended a bit later than America, right?
Yeah, way later, I think. I forget, when I was a kid when it happened.
Like the 80s, if I recall.
That sounds right, yeah.
But regardless, I'm sure the internet can correct us. But regardless, the difference here, and I always find this funny about the blacks in South Africa. I'm like, you guys are pathetic. You guys couldn't figure this stuff out. Like, the whites are like 10% of the population. You got dominated by 10%. Yeah. You guys are idiots. We're 12% of the population. So that makes sense that we would be bound.
A little harder at 12%.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, you guys are idiots. Yeah. And they are, to this day. They're lazy and they're idiots. And I say that with all love, and it's a challenge for them to do better. But anyways, I say that to say this. The white South Africans, which also there's diversity within that group, right? Some of them speak Afrikaans, some of them are English speaking, so they're different. But the fact is this: when you're 10% of the population, you know things can go left quickly. So there's a necessity to stick together.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
Yeah.
There's actually a lot of racial tension between other black races in South Africa.
Of course.
So they're like fighting each other, which is
Nigerians,
confusing. I think
yeah.
a lot of white people are like, wait, they're fighting each other because they don't consider themselves the same race.
Well, they are the same racial category, but they have different ethnicities, different racial subcategories. There's a lot of Shona there who are from Zimbabwe. They're Nigerian immigrants, and at the end of the day, they're as similar as an Italian and a Frenchman are.
And sometimes they battle.
Right, right, yeah.
So let's end with some audience questions. I have a few of these. I have people send them in and see if there's any good ones. Let's see. Okay, this one's kind of a tough one to ask anyways. What are the 3 moral vices you think are plaguing Western society?
Promiscuity. That's on both sides, or let's say promiscuity / perversion on the female side, promiscuity on the male side, perversion. So that's number 1. Number 2, escapism, so whether you use alcohol, drugs, or video games. And number 3, ease. It's too easy.
Yeah. No, good ones. So you don't drink or do any drugs at all?
Not at all, ever.
That's awesome. I do on occasion, but that's pretty impressive.
He's like every now
I'm not gonna
and then.
lie. I don't.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I've always been able to keep it under control, but I
Yeah.
can see how people. I've seen a lot of friends though get addicted to drugs, and it's rough. You know, I've seen people get addicted to sex. I've seen people. Addictions are real.
Yeah, especially in a town like this.
Yeah, sex is easy to get. Just sex and drugs.
All
often,
of
they
the
often go
addictions
hand
are
in hand.
easy here. Yeah.
Gambling's never had any interest in me. That one's been like, I don't like losing money. But that's let's see. You could couple more questions here. What do you see as the golden age? How do we bring it back?
You see, that's a fascinating question, and I've thought about this a lot. In as much as say the Roaring 20s, but it's like the Roaring 20s in America. If you're a white man, like that's the best time to have ever been a man, just an average man. Wealth, beautiful women, great style. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Or America coming out of World War II. If you're a white man, like that's the best position to be in. Maybe if you're a black man, when Timbuktu was a center of education, when Mansa Musa was, destabilizing economies because of the amount of wealth he had. Maybe during the 25th dynasty in Egypt. So it depends on what.
Yeah, who you are,
And when,
and where.
Exactly. But I think that our greatest days can always be ahead of us with good leadership. But what we have to understand, which is difficult, is that love must have firmness, and sometimes death must precede life. And we're in revolutionary times.
Yeah, things need to change or our country's going to collapse. I think a lot of people see that, and it's these next 10 years will be interesting.
And can I just respectfully say, and I hope people can just hear this in the spirit that it's said in, which is to say that I believe in America only. I think America is one of the greatest countries greatest civilizations to have ever existed. And I don't think Trump is the best America has.
Yeah.
But he's the best who has a chance of winning the presidency. And if he does not win, America dies.
Yeah, I mean, I'm critical about Trump with a lot of things, but he's clearly better than Kamala Harris. It's that she's just not even a real person.
We could go to 7-Eleven right now and find another.
Yeah. Anyone, like a random person,
Right.
The worker, probably whoever's working at 7-Eleven will probably more intelligent.
The person begging for change in front of 7-Eleven, right?
Well, she literally got her first job by Willie Brown. He was the mayor of San Francisco. He openly admits that he gave her a high-paying job where she didn't have to work for because she would give him blowjobs. This guy goes and makes fun of her all the time. Yeah, and then he gave her several jobs, and she moved up from there.
But I do want to say though, for everyone listening, that either Trump wins or the revolution starts. Either Trump wins or the revolution starts. If they get another 4 to 8 years, the country's over. We're all done. Inflation's done. Trump wins or the revolution starts.
I just really hope Trump puts in better people, because last time he did not stock his cabinet with the best people, like Bolton.
He was being fair. It was so weird. See, that's what in my book, The Black Box, I say never expect your enemies not to behave as enemies do. Which is to say that he was saying lock her up, but he didn't lock her up when he got in office. What are they trying to do to him? Lock him up.
Yeah,
right?
all the court cases against him were crazy. Assassination attempts, 5 different. I used to keep track. The impeachment was BS, both of them. But then I can't even keep up all these legal cases. They're absurd. There's the one where where he inflated, they say, his value. Everyone does that to inflate your value. That's like
Right.
common practice. Like anyone that does business,
In business.
everyone in business knows that's the norm. The bank didn't say it was fraud.
Correct.
He paid the bank back with interest. They're happy with it. And the case is absolutely insane.
And those are cases against capitalism itself.
Yeah.
You allow that precedent to exist, you really destroy the legitimate forms of capital. Well, they really need to talk to Wall Street. Wall Street is ridiculous. It's a Ponzi scheme, and it's always been that way. But you're talking to a guy who actually is creating real value. Like, you have buildings that you can touch. Like, this is real value. This builds the infrastructure of our country. He revived New York damn near single-handedly. Yeah. But long story short, Trump wins a revolution.
All right, let's do one or two more, and then we'll wrap it up. Let's see. How do you feel about Jordan Peterson?
Jordan Peterson is an intellectual who, similar to Malcolm Gladwell or Robert Greene, has brought knowledge to the masses, knowledge that is typically not his own, like his original research. So he's not as intelligent as people think.
Yeah.
I believe that those who are not lettered think he's bright. But if you went to a proper university, you're like, okay, this guy is like a random...
He's reading other people's stuff. Exactly.
Yeah. But what's worse is that his own family and his own mental health, which is documented, shows that he ought not be out in front as a leader. In the book of James, the Bible teaches us, it says, let not many of you be teachers, for teachers are held to a higher standard. I don't want to learn how to do MMA from someone who is not a champion. No. I don't want to learn MMA from someone who's never done MMA. I want to learn from someone like you who's really done it.
Who's been in there and knows what they're doing. Exactly.
He has no testosterone. His voice sounds like Kermit the Frog. He's wanted to off himself. His daughter's his daughter's a slore. And I don't say this to be disrespectful. I just say it to give you a harsh truth so that it can penetrate the fog of fandom that's on people's. Yeah.
I actually really liked Jordan Peterson when he first came out, but then I think he's completely dropped off. I think the drug addiction, he's just not been the same since this. Now he works for the Daily Wire, so he's simping from Israel. Wow. It's certainly not the same person. Let's see if any of the other ones are worth asking. Thoughts on black community, we already covered that. Solution to fix America, did we cover that? Not really, huh? That's a tough one.
Closing the borders is a start, and also we have to realize that the opposition is unreasonable, and when you're dealing with people who cannot reason, you can't talk to them. You can't find a solution. We're dealing with people who are actually mentally ill, so you must enact a final solution.
Yeah, and both parties are compromised. So unfortunately, there may need to be a revolution.
That's crazy, right? Both parties are actually compromised.
That's what's disheartening when you see, because I considered myself, I was part of like the anti-war free speech right. Wow. Then this Israel thing came in, and all of a sudden they want more money for war. They started trying to pass laws to make anti-Semitism legal. I'm like, wait, I thought we were for free speech and no wars. That switched real quick.
And that you should be able to be a racist.
Yeah, I should be able to be if I want.
Yeah, if you want to be a legit anti-black, anti-white, anti-whatever racist, you should have that right.
Well, in the anti-Semitism bill, it says if you criticize Israel, you're racist. And they say it's always changing when anti-Semitism is. They can decide what it means. It's like a joke.
Well, there have been times where Americans who have suffered tragedies weren't able to get support from certain organizations, government, tax-funded organizations, unless they signed off that they would not boycott
a bunch of states.
That's insane.
Yeah, it just shows how much control they have. Like this is a long topic. Maybe we get another time. This is too much. Let's wrap up. Do you have anything you would like to plug? Your podcast?
Yeah, sure.
Your store?
Yeah, absolutely. Check me out, The Saint and the Sinner on YouTube. You can find me at Marquett Davon on Instagram. And one of the things that I think is unique, and they'll probably have me strung up for this, is that I have something called the Assassin, which is an international organization that has men on the ground in various places organized that are actually meeting up to do workouts, to build community, and to grow their wealth, and also to fight the cultural fight.
That's awesome. I think meeting up's absolutely crucial, especially, like we have these big networks. Some people don't. You need to come in and become part of these networks. That's how you grow. I mean, the people that are coming are probably intelligent people that want to work hard. They want to better themselves. So things like this are absolutely important to society. So yeah, thanks. I'd like to say subscribe. I always forget to say subscribe to my podcast.
Right, yeah. Subscribe to Jake
YouTube
Shields.
And YouTube and Rumble. Follow me, Jake Shields, AJJ. That's the name on all three of them. So thanks a lot, guys. And hey, thanks for coming and talk. Talk soon.
It's a pleasure. Almost felt like taking off my headphones. Just